Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV47. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. Time for us to take a look at what the dailies are saying this morning. Lies getting bigger. That's the main story on the front page of the Standard. This is a quote. Quotes the president speaking in Narok yesterday, and he said, "We have the Cheluget farm that has caused us troubles for many days. Now let me tell you about the land. We have called Cheluget, sat down with him, and we have agreed that we will buy the farm as a government, and those in there will continue living there." That's the president speaking yesterday in Narok. But according to the Standard, this Cheluget is talking about was a former PC, Isaiah Cheluget, died in Kisumu in June 26th of 2017. Well, let's watch the president in Narok yesterday as he continues with his tours.
President William Ruto has slammed the opposition of fueling tribalism and sowing divisive politics in the country. The head of state, who was in his development tour in Narok County, pointed to ongoing government projects ranging from road construction and hospital upgrades to agricultural programs as his cardinal evidence of his administration's commitment to improving the lives of Kenyans.
Katika hii Kenya iko vikundi viwili. Iko kikundi hii yetu ya broad based. Watu wanaoamini katika umoja wa Wakenya. Watu wanaoamini katika umoja. Lakini kuna kikundi kingine ngambo ile, watu wa chuki, watu ya ukabila, watu wa migawanyiko wameungana tena pande ile ati kuendesha ukabila katika taifa letu la Kenya. Mimi nataka niwaambie wale watu wa ukabila na chuki na migawanyiko, tuko tayari kukabiliana na nyinyi kwa sababu Kenya hii tumekubaliana, hatutaki ukabila, hatutaki chuki, hatutaki migawanyiko.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, who flanked the president during the tour, echoed the president's sentiments, emphasizing that the government remains focused on development. Kindiki reaffirmed their dedication to ensuring national security and progress despite mounting criticism.
Mambo ya hii barabara, hiyo ni maendeleo si maendeleo? Sio maendeleo si maendeleo? Hiyo ni kazi ya wananchi ama ni kazi ya siasa? Si ni kazi ya wananchi. Kwa hivyo sisi tuko hapa mambo ya wananchi na mambo ya maendeleo.
Bas, hiyo ndio kazi nyinyi mlinipatia na nafanya na bidii. Si ndio? Na msikuwe na wasiwasi, hawa wengine nitawakaranga hapa mbele watashangaa.
During his tour, President Ruto launched key infrastructure projects including the Solgo-Ololunga Road and Solgo Hospital aimed at boosting healthcare services. In Emurwa Dikir, he issued land title deeds to local residents in a bid to resolve land disputes and promote agricultural growth. This comes after his recent allocation of 6,000 acres to residents of the Mau area.
Hatutaki nchi ambaye inaruliwa na ukabila. Sisi ni kitu kimoja.
President Ruto's two-day development tour of Narok County wrapped up today. Joash Onsare, TV47.
Yes, this morning I'm privileged to have in studio on my left Wilson Sosion, who has served as the Secretary General of the National Union of Teachers, KNUT, and also as a member of the National Assembly. Karibu sana Bwana Sosion to TV47. Yes. On my right I have Professor Fred Ogola, who's an economics and governance expert. Gentlemen, on this show we only take a look at the headlines as they come. We do not create them ourselves.
Sure.
On the Standard, they talk about lies getting bigger. President William Ruto's claim of meeting a man who died in 2017 was yet another eyebrow-raising entry in his growing anthology of alternative facts. Whether the president is an eager disciple of Joseph Goebbels' infamous doctrine, the greater the lie, the more likely it is to be believed, or is simply prone to the occasional imaginative detour remains anyone's guess. Either way, the nation's patience is wearing thin. That's the front page of the Standard. I'm just reading directly from there, Bwana Sosion. I know, I can see how you're looking at me. But these are not my words. I'm reading directly from this paper.
And I like the way you're putting the disclaimer.
Yes. So the president yesterday claimed that he met Isaiah Cheluget, who died in 2017. And the fact that more and more papers, Kenyans are saying the president enjoys talking about alternative facts or alternative truths. That's a concern. Do you feel that this is a fair assessment of the president's speech?
This is a very abnormal and obnoxious and outrageous headline by the Standard. And I think the Standard has been of late framing very sensational and inaccurate headlines. If today Fred Ndimuli says, I've met Mzee Jonathan Sosion, after meeting me, then you've met Jonathan Sosion. That's a fact for sure. Now, property, when a man passes on, reverts to the family. And Chelugate land in Narok is not a new item of dispute, and an alternative piece of land to settle people around that particular area. It happens, in fact, that is my neighborhood. And what the president said yesterday is accurate. There's been very detailed negotiation between the Ministry of Lands and Chelugate family, and that you can confirm. Chelugate family is not an unknown family. Is a daughter in that family, Nancy Kirui, ambassador, is a high, very experienced public servant who worked in London. I went to school, actually same class with one of the sons, an economist called Lawrence. So this is a family that exists. So when the president in the African context says, I've met Chelugate, it means he has met the family. And you as the star now, so as TV 47, you don't need to go by the framing and the politics of the Standard.
And that's why you're here, and that's why I asked the question.
You can now do your own fact check. What the president stated yesterday, is it true? And it is very true, it's accurate. And I think what the president has done a tremendous job in resolving land disputes in Narok. You saw Kedong Ranch reverting to the Maasais and handing over a title to protect the entire Mau forest to the Narok County government, because now it's under the custody of Narok County government and nobody's going to encroach in the forest anymore. The Angata disputed land, he was also able to resolve it, and this land around Chelugate to settle people who are already living there, and those who may want, who may be resettled by government, and also compensating those who are evicted from the forest. Okay. So I think what the headline should be reading is landmark achievement by the president in settling land issues in Narok and protecting the Mau forest. I think that is a positive story.
And we'll come back to the issue of land, because it's more about land in that area.
To me, this is misframing the president. The president has done a fantastic job in his visits to Migori and Narok. Okay. And so it is true. The government has met Isaiah Chelugate. He may have died in 2017. But Chelugate has children, he has family, and so anybody meeting Chelugate is true, because the children are there.
And Professor Fred Ogola.
And right now you're talking to my father Jonathan, because I'm here. He died in 06.
Whatever Bona Sosion says makes a lot of sense. That yes, just by mentioning a name, would not necessarily mean the individual. It could be the family. But the fact that a paper of this of this standard, which is the standard, is capturing something that has become a trend, that the president is now known for talking about things that are inaccurate. It speaks to something that many Kenyans doubt the president's word. That's why probably the reporter here found it a bit funny that he talked about someone who passed on more than 8 years ago.
Yeah, first of all, let me say that the battle between the state and the media has always been something of a long time ago, because the state has got a function it has to do, the media has a function it has to do. In economics, you hear the issue, talk about the first, they talk about the media is called the fourth estate. The first estate is always the state. The second estate is always the private sector. The NGO sector is always called the third estate. And the fourth estate is the media. And the media are not the story. The media Fred, I'm a trained person in the media. I used to train so many people in the media. The media should never be the story. The media should report the story. In fact, journalists are not the story. The story is the state. Those are the 3 states. And this is a good story. I don't know why Sosion has a problem with it. In fact, Bwana Sosion, if you can look at Kenyans and tell Kenyans that you are here to justify that Ruto is saying the truth, I think so many Kenyans will laugh at you. Because Kenyans have seen Ruto to be synonymous with the lying. And the lies are way too many. In fact, we can give you many examples. He's lied about nearly anything. Bishops, as holy as they are, said, stop lying. A bishop has no problem with the president. The bishops are not politicians. Bishops are just concerned about the state of the nation. In fact, children in school, sometimes you hear, even you go to a primary school, children say Ruto is a liar. So the lying with the president is something which has been accepted as part of life. What people are now analyzing, what is he lying about, not whether he can lie or not. The propensity, the affinity to lie is very high with him. And when someone cannot deliver, because what is the root cause of this problem? The root cause of lying comes from when you can't deliver and you are trying to talk too much and discuss it too much, then you have to enter into this problem. What I would tell the president, just stop meeting these people. Let you be seen around the house. Sit down, execute what these people are talking about. Fred, the Kenyan problem cannot be solved by touring. The Kenyan problem is economic. The Kenyan problem sits in treasury. The Kenyan problem sits in the household, the Minister of Labor. That Minister for Labor called Alfred Mutua. Can he fix the Ministry of Labor? You see the cartoon is saying, give us jobs, then say, give us votes. Who should be the president talking to? If I was the president, I could Alfred Mutua and ask him, what's happening in the jobs? Because the jobs abroad are lies. They are being stated every now and then. How many people do you know in your family, relatives, neighborhood, in your church, anywhere, fellow colleagues who have left the TV47 here to go work abroad? Mm-hmm. If no one has left TV47 to go work abroad, even a watchman has not left, then who is going abroad? So the lies are way too many. And I want to say in Proverbs 10:20, they said that a good tongue is a gift of silver. A good tongue is a tongue that pronounces the truth. When you can say the truth, you become silver. Is President William Ruto's tongue is a tongue of silver? And the same proverb says that a sweet tongue is a dangerous thing if it is in a godless, someone is in the mouth of a godless person. If you are godless and you have a sweet tongue like William Ruto's tongue, is a very dangerous tongue. I want to tell Kenya, let us not even sit down to start analyzing what Ruto is saying, whom he's lying about. Let us focus on the Kenyan problem,
yes,
which is the economic problem.
Can we afford not to analyze what the president is saying? And the problem is that continuously, and this has become a trend, that many Kenyans are no longer associating the president with the truth. And we've seen that happen. Even if the standard could be inaccurate to some extent, the fact that we are no longer associating the president with the truth, and whatever he says, we have to question, that leaves us in a very precarious position.
Fred, when you make such allegations and say many Kenyans, you must put very clear empirical data on the table.
The bishops, as Professor Ogola said, and the bishops represent a lot of Kenyans.
Bishops are Kenyans, and also some of them are politically inclined, and that's their right. So if you're playing politics and you make a statement founded on political bias, then that is okay. You see it. And just like the media, the media also, no. The media also is free to take political sides. It's allowed. It has happened in other jurisdictions. So it doesn't surprise us here in Kenya, but that is not going to stop the president from doing what is right for the country. And the president is dealing with the people directly and is dealing with their issues directly and very empirically in ways that are measurable with very clear indicators that a blind man will not need spectacles to see what is being done. For example, in this context that we are discussing, let us be specific so that we avoid diverting ourselves to other issues. This headline on the Standard, the president was in Sogo, let me be specific, in Narok. And he pronounced to the people who live around Sogo area, and that is where Cheluget land is located, that I've talked to Mr. Cheluget so that the government can buy his land here. And the people confirmed and clapped because don't think that those people don't know that Cheluget died. They know that Cheluget died. But in the context of our culture, if you talk to Cheluget, you're talking to the family. If you talk to Mzee Jonathan Sosion, who died in 2006, you are talking to the family. And the question is there Cheluget land around Sogoi? Yes. Has the government negotiated with the family to purchase the land so that those who are living there can be permanently settled? They don't need to be evicted because they are facing threats of eviction. They cannot develop their land. They can't plant trees. And has that been done? Yes. Is that a major problem that the president has resolved? In fact, this is the talk within that community today. People are very excited that the president has resolved a problem that has stayed for a long time. It's a win-win for the family because government will pay them.
Okay.
The government will pay them. It is a win. It is a win for the people who are threatened with eviction because they'll be assured of being titled to stay on that land.
And I think
maybe if there's more land, if there's still more land, then government can resettle those who were moved out of our forest. Fred, it is good we become factual. This is the data we can talk about here.
I think the president has got the best advisor the money can buy. And if the president cannot communicate that you have to sit down to try to interpret what he's saying, there's a problem.
We are not interpreting, that's a fact.
The president is a very good communicator. In fact, if you compare how President William Ruto speaks compared to Kibaki, Ruto is a better communicator than Kibaki. Kibaki did not have these problems. Why? It's because the fact that he is not saying the truth. According to me, there are too many people. Go to the State House and look at the presidency. Look at the people in charge of the communication of the president. There are way too many, and maybe the information is too much disconnected. There are way too many advisors, actually millions of them. The State House budget is ballooning because of the many people who are in communications, are in advising, are in the entourage. But the output, because this is simple. Input, output, outcome, impact. If I want to talk to the people of Narok on a certain issue, I don't rush on top of the car and just take a microphone. She'll be well calculated, well communicated, well articulated. How comes that even people like let's say, NGOs who don't even have money, people like Fred Ogola, the presidency, whatever you say will hit the headline. You can't just wake up and say anything. Mm-hmm. And is this an executive order? Is this a story by the roadside? Isn't it? Are these roadside declarations like more is time? Isn't it? Remember, the president is managing this company as managing Kenya as a pastoralist. Pastoralists have got this challenge. I'm sorry to say this. You take your cattle to graze somewhere, until the grass is over, then you take them here. So today we are in Mount Kenya trying to do grazing. Then you rush to Narok, you graze. You go to Migori, you graze, they throw a shoe on your head. Then you run to Narok to say this. Can the president, after that shoe, go sit down in State House and say, what is wrong? Me, I was thinking that the message was that please go and have a retreat with yourself. You are hit with a shoe today, tomorrow there's a lie in Narok. Unreflected life is not worth living. This is a wisdom that we've been told by the great people of philosophy before. Socrates said, unreflective life is not worth living. When does Kenya Kwanza reflect? When does the president reflect about what is happening in the country? That person who threw a shoe, friend, let me tell you how painful it is to throw a shoe. If you go to a rally and throw a shoe at the president, you are going home walking barefoot, isn't it? Do you know what it will take me to throw my shoe? You go to a rally and throw your shoe and you walk home without shoes. Secondly, that person, if you look at that shoe, the shoe was very dirty, isn't it? Probably this is his only pair of shoe. How can you throw your only pair of shoe? My first pair of shoe was bought when I was going to Form 1, isn't it? Can you imagine me throwing it at somebody? And that's my first shoe. Probably that person, that was his first shoe. So we're saying that people are saying these things. And in fact, you talk about the area where Chelagui comes from. Let me also tell him the facts. He says he spoke this thing in the land where Isaac Cheluget comes from, and he talked to Cheluget in that land. You know, it's impossible to now saying that maybe he talked to his wife or he talked to his father. He talked about his farm. Who is this Cheluget who owns the farm there? And how can you talk to someone who is not the owner of the farm, then you say it will be done? So according to me, the standard is as accurate as it can get. The president will be the only thing that can surprise us about the president if he says the truth now. In fact, the president needs to at least say one truth to falsify those who believe that he can never say the truth.
And thank you, Prof, for bringing up that issue about what happened in Migori. And there's been this question about the presidency and how Kenyans place, or where Kenyans place the presidency. Many people feel that the space around the presidency has become so casual, that even the president himself is treating the presidency so casually, then thereby allowing what happened to him in Migori.
No, the presidency is not getting casual. The presidency is getting demystified as our democracy progresses.
But should it?
That's a fact for sure. And
should it get to the extent of what we saw in Migori?
The presidency has to go to the people. Let me correct this misinformation about Migori. And nobody threw a shoe at the president. That's a fact. It has been verified. It is just that some Kenyans who wanted to record the president using their own phones, and some creative individual picked up a shoe and pretended to be recording also with a shoe. And the person who was standing behind was so annoyed that the shoe is obstructing him from having the full view of the president, so he decided to hit the shoe.
In the direction of the president.
And while hitting the shoe flew to the direction of the president. And that was analyzed by security experts, communication, and those guys have been left, and so there was no issue. Those were just Kenyans enjoying and getting excited with the presence of the president. And I don't think we are going to hype this particular matter to look like somebody threw a shoe to the president. Nobody threw a shoe to the president. That I can tell you. And it is something I've verified, I've checked, and people are just making fun. And I don't think
you verified by watching the video?
Yes, we've watched the video.
Or did you exercise any other?
We have watched in the video, and this thing is within the media space, and you can check it. I'm sure also you have watched, if you were to be honest. So really, the incident of Migori, nobody threw a shoe at the president. That has come out, and so
Fred,
nobody should hype that particular matter.
Please.
The issue at Narok.
Let's just respond.
Now that we are on the issue of the
You'll be back.
I'll give you.
I come from Luo Nyanza. What led to because any action...
You come from Luo Nyanza, but now you are in Nairobi.
Yes.
And maybe you have not seen that clip.
Means I have direct contact with some people and I have some information on the ground. That's what it means.
I've been as GNAT, so I have direct contact with teachers also on the ground.
Yes,
I can verify.
Yes, that is true. You can give your testimony. Let me give mine. What I can tell you is that every action, Fred, must have an intention. That's why as a Catholic, if you commit a sin, the sin cannot be committed in isolation, just the act. There must be the intention, isn't it? So I was privy to some young people who are very mad when the president spoke in Atike, when he said, Nispoenda utadu, that if Ruto doesn't go, utadu, that thing annoyed people. In fact, remember that the shoe throwing took place after the speech in Atike, which made people mad, because someone told me, before this through shown, called me and told me, Professor, I was so mad, because someone whom people say must go is saying that if I don't go, what will you do? Which means that for you to throw a shoe I was training, you reach the last resort. Like, there's nothing else we can do. In my culture, if your wife beats you with some things in the house, ujue imeisha. There's no point of return. Hata ukienda kwao, utaambiwa mzee hii kitu, hatuwezi tatua. So when someone throw a shoe, his shoe, it means yani story imeisha. In fact, even if you explain
Can you prove that the shoe was thrown?
Yes, the shoe was thrown.
Are you able to prove?
The shoe was thrown because let me tell you what, Fred.
I don't think
we do
makes
physics.
Sense, Fred.
We do physics. For the shoe,
there's a video we have on
I don't
right
think
now.
it makes sense.
No, let me tell you, we do physics.
For us,
there's a certain force that cannot go with heating to move that distance. You do any way you want. That's why when a ball comes, they say we're watching football, when a ball comes, there's a direction which if the ball comes, then you go in another direction and the ball gets power to go. So the power to reach from where that person is, if you analyze that distance, let me ask you, who can throw a shoe in the inner circle of the president's security? What is the nearest distance someone can be outside the inner circle of the security? Numbers have it. There's a standard, isn't it? It must be minimum of around 20 meters. Isn't it?
We have it on record that some people were arrested after that incident. Are you saying it was purely accidental that the police saw a need to arrest someone?
It is common knowledge. Of course, the security could have acted, but upon verification of facts and data, I think those who were suspected to have been involved were set free, according to the information I have. And the information that is there, that is a fact, is that nobody threw a story. Okay.
Fred,
and who else should be afflicted if government and everyone else and all of us are saying nobody threw a stone?
Right.
It is a Kenyan who was trying to...
Fred, why...
allow me.
Explain...
No, you had your time.
Explain.
You had your time.
Why should someone move their shoe and lift upward?
You had your time. If somebody was mimicking, taking a phone, a picture of the president with a shoe, and others were actually using their own phones, and somebody was annoyed of being obstructed and is hitting that particular thing, that is not intention to throw a stone in philosophy and logics. And so therefore, and the government is not aggrieved, the president is not aggrieved, none of us is aggrieved. Why are others crying louder than
those who feel
that is out of question. Then the other thing,
that the president has casualized his presidency so much that he's getting too close to the people, and he's always on rooftops of cars.
Once you are elected as a leader, you don't operate away from the people. You go and work among the people and talk to the people. He was talking to the people, and he was in sync with the people. At that moment, he was discussing a very serious agenda on fertilizers. Even when you look at the clip of Soko, he was talking to the people of Soko, and they turned out in numbers. And when he made that announcement that I've negotiated with Chelugi, the people applauded, meaning they understood. Let me come back to what he's trying to allude. Somebody was annoyed when the president said, if I don't go, utadu. And let me answer you. The president will be re-elected resoundingly in 2027. Right. So he's not going anywhere.
Okay.
He will retire peacefully in 2032.
Final word on this so that we move on away from the issue.
And therefore, your imagination, this thing you are driving, one-term president, Ruto must go, Ruto must go. You guys will end up in hospital shouting yourself hoarse for something that will not happen. Okay. The president is dealing directly with the people.
Right.
The president is
on this issue,
pushing the pillars.
Let me conclude.
Casualizing
I think, Fred, let us discuss about a bigger issue, because the issue of the shoe is just contributing to what we need to talk about. the issue of the president taking his office casually, look at whom the president has met in State House before. The president has met everything. Even in the US, Mara, you're meeting, I don't know, the kind of people who you meet, the kind of people whom you are associated with, the kind of people in your inner circle. Look at even meeting heads or rebels. Look at you meeting illegitimate governments, people trying to topple another government. Look at all the diplomatic gaffes and goofs the president has made. Look at how the president has made State House look like a place where people even eat githeri. You know, there's a lot of things that the presidency, if you talk about that's what it means to demystify the presidency, I can disagree with you because an institution must not just be an institution. I'm an expert in economics. An institution must look like one. Like if I work in Uzima University, you can't come and tell you there's no VC. If there's no VC, there's no university. If there's no DVC, there's no university. A studio must have an anchor like you. A studio must have a camera. Can you come to a studio where there's no camera and you say you have a studio? Maybe you could just be having a group of TikTokers. I'm sure that the presidency has been made, as he's saying, demystifying it. But for me, I think that the presidency has lost respect because of the thing is, a father is the head of the family. The president has always been seen as a father to the nation. Mm-hmm. That's why I talk the father, baba wa taifa, sivyo? Sasa kama baba wa taifa, watoto haezi kula, sivyo? They cannot be able to have education. They cannot be able to have, the economy is not working. Look at what's happening. The formal sector is shrinking. Everywhere I go, Fred, boardrooms, people are just analyzing what if Ruto is elected again. As he's shouting to me that he'll be elected, I sit in boardrooms. Even after this, I'm going to do a consultancy for a company. I won't mention the name because you know them. I lose everything I talk about. But the people are discussing about the Kasongo factor. Can we have him end by 2027 so that we can now start our board recovery? I was in the board yesterday, Fred. I was chairing that board. The argument we have is that between now and 2027, the most important thing you need to do as a company is to stay afloat. So that when we have a change of guard in 2027, now you can do business. I can tell you, Fred, and this is not a joke. Do you know why Equity Bank is not focusing on growing Kenya? Tell me when did Equity Bank open a new branch in Kenya? Mm-hmm. Tell me when did Coop Bank open a new branch in Kenya? But I'll tell you severally how Equity Bank is opening branches in DRC Congo. They are doing a road show to get more customers, build more branches. If you go to Uganda, the way you despise Museveni, if you are an investor in Uganda, you feel you're a businessman, you feel respected. Here, all you get is insults, people threatening you here and there. You go to Rwanda, you can talk about Kagame being a dictator, that's up to you. But the economy of Kagame, if you do business there, which I do, you feel respected as a business person. As consultants, you get paid. Here, things are not working. The president is seen as a liar. The president is seen like someone who cannot do a commitment. If you can sign anything with the government, it's a not going concern. Pending bills are not being paid. Nothing that is promised is done. Look at the appointments. You want to fix healthcare, which is a problem. Then you take Duale as your CS Health. Youths are crying about labor. You take Alfred Mutua as your CS Labor. Security, you put Murkomen head of security. Treasury, you put an accountant who is so clueless because Raila gave to you, you take him because you want Raila to take. So what I'm trying to say is that the series of decisions made by that man has lost him respect, just like a father at home. Okay. There are some decisions when you make them. Even you see children saying, Buddha sasa amepoteza mwelekeo. We say that. So even as a head teacher, and I think that Sosiano was a head teacher.
Buddha amepoteza mwelekeo.
Yes, head teacher. Yes, you can be told that you amepoteza mwelekeo. Mm-hmm. Until kids sit you down. Have you seen a family where the kids sit and tell, please now, tugawanyie yetu. Ama they sit down saying that now you cannot sign anything. Mm-hmm. It's happening in families. Right. So at the moment, we know that what Ruto was supposed to do, he has not done. He's not doing. He has no intention of doing. He has no team to do it. He won't do it. He'll never do it. And that's why we are saying now it's not just about must go, but now we have to discuss about what are the alternative leadership we have.
Okay, and so before we get to the alternative leadership, Bwana Sossion, even if we do not listen to the words of Professor Ogola, we at least can base it on the economic survey. that was released just the other day. It is part of the headlines today on the Standard. The front page, economy falters as key sectors stall. Kenya Kwanza's pet projects post slow growth in ailing economy. Kenya Kwanza and President William Ruto have been insisting that we are on a recovery path, that things are looking better, inflation is at its lowest, and that the economy is okay. But according to the economic survey report released this week, and this is from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, the economy is actually slowing down, not in comparison with the last administration, but actually in comparison to last year. Things are not looking good. In as far as jobs are concerned, President William Ruto has been insisting that the affordable housing program has created more jobs, but it would appear, especially in the real estate and construction sector, that is where things are going bad.
Yeah, of course, what was reported in the real estate is the impact of affordable housing, and the affordable housing is affecting those monopolists who have monopolized that space for a long time. That's a fact, and it was expected it would go that way, and that is where the fight back was. And the professor of cartels here, who have been in the monopoly of the economic space, are finding it difficult, because then the popular interest of the people is entrenching itself slowly by slowly.
How do we explain
the fact in terms of data?
The issue of construction. I'm asking, how do you explain the contraction, 0.7% in the construction sector at a time when Kenyans are paying more for the affordable housing project?
Allow me to conclude first, because you are taking me to a specific, and I've answered you. It is true. This was expected. With the growth of affordable housing across the country, of course, the private investors in that space, in the real estate and housing, will be affected. In the long run, the cost of rent will come down, the cost of housing will come down, and that is going to make this commodity called housing available to Kenyans, because the road to affordable housing is going to bring down astronomically the cost of housing and will make it generally accessible. That is an economic fact, and that is good for the people, is good for the citizens, but it may not be good for the economic monopolist. Government cannot stand for economic monopolies. If we are talking about making services available to the people.
Be concerned about economic
the bigger, yes, it's concerned, and it will grow. It's only competition that it is facing from the programs that are coming from government, and the intervention of the key pillars by government is to make certain basic commodities and services available to the people. And that is what the bottom-up economic transformation agenda underpins. If we talk about the economic growth, the data is clear that Kenya is one of the fastest growing economy. In fact, the same data from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is that we have outstripped other jurisdictions like Ethiopia.
Let's be clear about the facts, Bwana.
And we are now, that's a fact.
According to the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, the Kenyan economy posted a sluggish growth of 4.7% in 2024 from 5.7% the previous year.
Yes, a drop, even if that be as it is, a drop from 5.7 to 4.7, that is just, but it's not it's not very significant.
From 5.7 to 4.7.
It is not very significant, but let's look at the macroeconomic level calibration and control by government. The dollar is stable, and when the dollar is stable, the farmers can export their coffee at good prices. They can export their tea. People can do business. And that is very, very important. Number two, when we talk of inflation being down at 3%, then it means there is consistent assurance by the citizens to access goods and services without shock of variation. Those are economic facts. And some of the slight changes should not invite political bashing and loud mouthing.
According to the Economic Survey
negativity.
2025, cement
That's a fact for
consumption
sure.
dropped 7.2%, while employment registered a downward trend. Credit from commercial banks to the sector, this is the construction sector, dropped to 528 billion shillings last year from 602 billion. Is there any way that this administration can explain this drop at a time when they're pushing the affordable housing program?
Yeah, Fred, let me tell you that if you ask somebody who is defending with a political mindset, you cannot get an answer for an economic problem. And I've always told you that Kenyan problem is one, economic. And we are trying to give an economic solution. We're trying to give an economic solution, a political solution to an economic problem. And that's what Ruto needs to understand. Forget about everything else. Let me give you these facts. When he says that that's a small drop, the GDP of Kenya is $108 billion. So 1% drop is 140.8 billion shillings. Shrink. 140 billion shillings. How many people in the economy are taken care of? So that is a big thing. Don't waste our time by saying that it's a drop in the ocean. Secondly, the president's agenda is on of construction and agriculture. Fertilizer that he was talking about when he was given a shoe on his head, that person maybe read this survey. And you are lying to say you are putting fertilizer to grow agriculture, and agriculture is shrinking. And Fred, let me talk about agriculture in a big way, because we have the sugar factories in the Western Kenya which are lying there, and what is happening is corruption there. Because I know that now Kibos Sugar and the West Valley Sugar wants to acquire Muhoroni Sugar and Chemelil Sugar. And the truth is not that they want to grow them. The truth is that they want to get access to the land, and they here are two brothers. That is Raila Odinga and William Ruto. They are the shareholders of those two companies. They want to take control of the land. Remember, the land for those sugar companies were given free by the community for the sugar to be done those days. So the problem is big in agriculture because they don't really care about it. Because look, the sugar industry, Kenyans crush 16 tons of sugar cane to produce 1 ton of sugar. Brazil crushes 6 tons of sugar cane to produce 1 ton of sugar. So the efficiency levels are very bad. Post-harvesting, pre-harvest, the issues are big, Fred, that if the president can focus on them, it can help. So when I see, the other day I saw people still packaging Momia sugar. Do you know the last time Momia sugar produced sugar? It was close more than a year ago, isn't it? How can you be having Momia sugar around? Sony sugar, still people are packaging it. So it is impossible that we can be efficient now because we are not focusing. And Fred, I'm very sad because do you know that sugar cane farming is what made the US economy? Look at what slaves were farming in the US those days. The slaves who are going to the US were the ones who are farming sugar cane that grew the American economy. So what has made American economy? What has made Brazil to rise to become one of the powerful houses in the BRICS? What has made South Africa become a powerful economic house? What has made India emerge is making us grow. What has made other nations rich is making us poor. Sugarcane is a rich man's crop in some countries. In Kenya, sugarcane is a poor man's crop. Now, employees of Chemelil went on strike. I'm not the one speaking. You saw them on the street. They are complaining because they know what's happening is that the handshake was a sugar shake, so that people can get access to people's land there. Because if the sugarcane efficiency is this bad, I'm telling you, where should you go? So what I'm trying to say, Fred, it doesn't work. Let me go now to what the Kenya Kwanza can do, because there are so many things. You can see, and now you see Ruto with his team, you see Wamunyoro of their team. One thing which is common among those groups is that these people are part of some failure in some sector at some point of time, isn't it? So the solutions cannot really come from them, isn't it? But should they want to, listen to John Badi. We have a budget policy statement which has not taken care of the problems that we are seeing here. Because the budget policy statement is still talking about putting money on Hustler Fund for SMEs and MSMEs to borrow, isn't it? Yet the SMEs and MSMEs are owed money on pending bills. The SMEs are owed 400 billion pending bills, isn't it? Yet you borrow them 60 billion. So if I owe you, Fred, 400 billion, then I tell you, Fred, because I've not paid you, let me lend you 60 billion, but for you pay me immediately. And then when you take your goods and services to me, I am not going to pay you. How will you pay me?
All right.
And the economy is shrinking because the economic model was wrong. The economic model was bottom up. We were told the enemy of Kenya, Sossion is preaching, was the people with pay slip. And were the people even blocking the people at the low. Remember, the formal sector is shrinking, and the formal sector is the one that holds the informal sector. Okay. So the informal sector is expanding, which is an indicator of poverty, while the formal sector is shrinking, middle class is shrinking, and middle class holds the lower class, isn't it? So economic model was wrong from day one. Yeah. They should just accept it. And Buddy is now telling Kenyans, I will lower the interest rate like he says, so that you can have money in your pocket, isn't it? Fred, 19 million Kenyans are on CRB as we speak, isn't it? That is 66% of adult population. Even if you put interest rate to -2, no one will borrow on CRB.
Okay. Thank you, Prof.
And they have no medicine. So far, they are giving people malaria queen when people are having cancer.
Kindly explain this to me.
Fred, the economy has cancer when these guys are giving the malaria queen. Okay. It will not work.
Talking about this contraction in the construction sector, and I'm just reading straight from the papers here. They say, in addition, the numbers of residential housing units completed by the State Department for Housing, who's in charge of the affordable housing program, declined from 3,357 units in 2023 to 1,655 units, a decline of more than 2,000 units in 2024. The National Treasury, meanwhile, has significantly increased allocations to the sector, with expectations that this will boost the sector and put the government's affordable housing program back on track. Could this be an admission that, yes, this affordable housing unit was not probably the best solution to the issue it tried to solve?
That is a media person paraphrasing his own message. But this is the fact of the message on affordable housing. You have seen across the country significantly, and contrary to the naysayers, the critics who are devoting their energy and time on negative messaging, like Professor here and many others who are not here. The housing project is tremendously taking shape. And in fact, the first occupants have started occupying houses even from within here in Nairobi. And that is a fact.
Which houses are you talking about?
And that is a fact.
Bwana Sossion, which houses are you talking about? That Kenyans are already occupying houses through the affordable housing?
I think in Mukuru, I've seen...
Kenyans are already occupying?
Yes. That the first Kenyans have started occupying, and they've been allotted and given space, given houses. So these houses are not shadows. They're real physical structures that Kenyans are applying competitively, and they will get into the houses. The activities within the housing infrastructure is spreading very fast to the constituencies and to the rest of the country. And this is a grand project that will outlive the Kenya Kwanza administration and William Ruto regime. There is a law in place to manage it. And by the way, since I've worked in the social sector for a long time...
The question right now is not that whether or not it will be consequential.
Allow me to finish.
No, the question is, and what we're covering here, Bwana Sossion, because we need to be clear, is the fact that even with the affordable housing program and the many deductions that Kenyans have to pay towards that kind of program, we're still experiencing a contraction in that sector.
Allow me to continue explaining. Of course, contraction can be temporary shock, but it doesn't mean it's a collapse. Those are, of course, we can't have a straight growth. Sometimes there's some bit of fluctuation. As an economist, he knows, and the reasons why sometimes there are temporary fluctuation. But the fact is, the growth in housing and the activities in the housing space is so tremendous. And within that space, there are over 300,000 additional jobs that have been created. And in the fullness of time, as this program continues, you will see more activities in the economy. The market infrastructures is another area of investment which is going to support pillar number 2. Let me come back and dismiss what Professor is trying to lie to the country, because you are bringing unverified raw lies to a credible media station to tell us who is interested in owning some land around the factories and whatnot. That's not what you are looking for. Pillar number 1 of agriculture, and if we can talk about sugar industry, for the first time, we are not importing sugar. And there are no licenses granted for anybody to import sugar. Why? The impact by the fertilizers has doubled the tonnage among the farmers. And you've seen farmers around Mumias, they've started enjoying bonuses. And the rest of the factories will begin experiencing the same. Fred, it is common knowledge that we started importing sugar during the Moi regime. It continued during Kibaki regime. It continued exponentially during Uhuru regime. But within 2 years, the President Ruto and his government has turned around this narrative that now we are able to produce enough to satisfy the market and even have surpluses. That means we can make Kenya a domestic exporter and can satisfy the East African community and COMESA region with our own locally produced sugarcane. Why are we not talking about this achievement? Why are we fishing for some unverified narratives, like the way you were fishing about the shoe, that the shoe was thrown, when in fact it was not thrown. When you are fishing about the lie, Narok.
As you explained,
so I think today, fundamentally, we've got
an economic explanation to this, the contraction in the construction sector, because many Kenyans were wondering, some Kenyans who are employed are paying a lot more with the 1.5% levy on housing. And people are wondering, how come that sector is contracting? Kindly explain it to Kenyans.
Let me explain to you. The economic development, the only way to look at it is differentiate economic development and economic growth. Economic growth is how much government is collecting in terms of revenue. But economic development is whether the government is putting money in education, in healthcare, in the economy. So government is collecting money, yes, from people's pay slip, but that money is not going to the construction sector. So that money is not going. And the evidence is this, their statistics. Their own statistics. I remember there's a time when we used to go as economists and publish statistics, we were totally arrested because the official government statistician is Kenya Bureau of Statistics. So let them go and fire the people there if they don't want to believe in this data, because in God we trust, the rest must bring better. And let me tell you, Fred, I am an economist, but I'm not an economist who talks about books. If you go to Kericho, if you go to Eldoret, you go to Bungoma, you go to Kitale, even come to Murang'a, Kiambu, go to Mombasa, all those who run hardware, because you must know the construction by how hardware is doing the turnovers. Call all those guys who run hardwares and tell them what their turnover on cement, nails, iron sheet, timber, the construction materials. It is not happening. Actually, hardwares are firing employees as we speak. I have brothers and sisters who run those hardwares. I have friends who run those hardwares. But also as an economist, when I go to Kericho, I usually walk around and ask them, I've told you, I was fired from Strathmore. I work for Rosima University, but in my side job, I do consultancy. I sit in boardroom with the companies when we analyze the microeconomic environment. Why is banks not borrowing to the construction sector? Because they have no business. Because you have to project your cash flow and your revenue to show that money is hitting your bank, then I can borrow you money because I was a banker. So if you can't show movement in your bank account, how can I lend you money? That's why banks have stopped. When a bank stops giving money to any sector, they know there's no revenue, there's no cash flow, and there's nothing going on. So if you go and ask people, go to people's pockets, People's pockets are painful. Tell me anybody who thinks their wallet is doing well for them. Go to a boardroom. People are only complaining. Markets. Go to the banks. Go to churches. Go to fuel stations. Go to hardwares. Even go to matatu industry. I was actually the other day having coffee with somebody in village market, and the waiter told me, sisi tuko hapa na tujui kazi tutapoteza namna gani, because the clients that are coming are less. We are watching Champions League in village market and seats are empty. You know, an empty seat is revenue gone. You go to hotels, an empty bed, an empty room is revenue gone. So where is Sosion and his economists in this country that they are not seeing this thing? In fact, the fact that Sosion is arguing by telling me I'm bringing fake statistics does not work. Sosion, do you know that there is no Mumia Sugar Company? And this is a fact. Go and verify. There is what we call New Mumias Sugar Company. New. Do you know why? Mumias has got liabilities to the employees, to the farmers who are supposed to get their sugarcane paid. So they gave somebody a contract to take over Mumias Sugar Company, and that person has converted Mumias Sugar Company to New Mumias. Then they were taken to court to pay liabilities. Then they said because they took over the control of Mumias Sugar Company and they never took the liability from the employees and also from the suppliers, they don't have liability, like saying, CCCO, wow. Now look at what has happened. NHIF, SHA. It is the same scapegoat. That's why Bishop says, stop lying. These things are truth. They can be confirmed with the documents, Fred. When Sosion says, I am bringing an economic lie here,
we can actually base it with just on the economic side.
Yes, it comes clear. Then I want to tell you the following. Fred, let us be honest here, that the economy is hurting, and anybody speaking on live television saying that things are good and we are complaining, it is him who has a problem. Look at employment rate. Look at Kenyan's income, averages going down. Look at the inflation he talked about is low. Inflation is 5.1% in Kenya against Chinese 0.2. Imagine in China, inflation is 0.2%. Exchange rates against the US, I heard Mbadi saying 130 is optimal. Fred, that's a lie. Mbadi is saying that if we strengthen the Kenya shilling, then they'll have less export. Let me tell you what strengthens the Kenya shilling. When you're producing more and exporting more, your currency is under high demand because people want to buy your currency to buy your produce, and therefore your currency gets stronger. So there's a correlation between that. So why is everything we have in China is produced in China? And the Chinese currency is stronger. UK has been called before the workshop of the world. That's why the pound is 145.
Okay.
So when you have somebody like John Mbadi in charge of the economy, I think that Raila really did a big disfavor by picking the cream de la cream in ODM, thinking the ODM, people who know how to run ODM knows how to run the economy. Okay. But you know, they are good politicians, but terrible economists. Okay. The Mbadinomics is killing the economy, and that's why you think these statistics are showing. Because Fred, to be honest, I talk about input. Mbadi is an input, isn't it? Mbadi should be advising the president as a CS, isn't it? He is not delivering it.
Answer me this, Bwana Sosion, because, and this is purely from the data from KNBS. Slow growth in agriculture, 4.6% in 2024, down from 6.6% in 2023. This is within 1 year. Electricity supply, 1.9% in 2024, down from 3.1% in 2023. ICT, 7% in 2024, down from 10.3%. Financial services, 7.6% in 2024, down from 10% in 2023. Transport, something similar. Accommodation and food services, the same. What is happening? Is it right for the government or this administration to keep telling Kenyans things are good?
No, but you see, statistics and data helps us to understand the picture of the trends in the market. There is a word called trend.
These are different sectors.
Yeah, those are different sectors, and they can oscillate in more or less in a similar manner. If that data is accurate, then
this is the KNBS. Are you saying you're doubting the data?
No, why can't you allow me?
No, because you're saying if the data is accurate.
Fred, you have asked me a question. Allow me to complete my,
but you cannot doubt the
my
data.
discussion.
Are you doubting the data from KMBS?
I'm saying if the data is accurate.
Yes, you're saying if.
If the data is accurate. Yes.
That's
if the data is
statement
accurate.
of doubt.
No, it's not a statement of doubt. You're
doubting
also,
whether or not it's accurate.
It is also an inquisitive opinion question. That's a right of me. Now, from that general trend, it tells you there were more activities in 2023. And in 2024, generally, it looks like they were reduced in those particular, in all those particular sectors. Yes, that's a fact for sure, if that is what is accurate. But it doesn't mean there are no activities in those sectors. There are enormous activities within those spaces. And where is the data for 2025? Because we have 2023, 24, 25.
We're only 4 months into the year.
And it is very clear, the general other data which are not here, which are indicated. We have also grown and outgrown other economies within the region. That means our economy is not static.
How would you explain a decline in
progressing.
agriculture at a time when the government was pushing for cheaper fertilizer, and they've touted cheaper fertilizer?
There are general factors that can lead to low production, like seasons of low rains. Then you can't expect much activities to go on. We could have that, such seasons, and many other factors. But the fact of the matter is, within the agricultural space, if we are to audit the pillars of Kenya Kwanza administration, the uptake of fertilizers has been so tremendous. It is continuous. The impact of fertilizers in production has been very great. Look at the number of bags of maize that we are now getting as a country, close to 74 million bags, up from 30.
Shouldn't we
up from 30. That is almost a marginal rise of 40 million bags. And the tonnage in sugar, for example, is up from 40,000 metric tons to 84. That is almost near double. And those are indicators of enhanced production, and that is not going to stop.
Be captured in this data?
Where are those statistics in this survey?
Because we're saying
these are other general.
Those are US statistics.
These are other general.
Those are Kenya Kwanza
about
statistics.
Activities in terms of general percentages.
No.
But when you talk about the real quantity,
you have not read your statistics.
The real quantities, and when you talk of quantitative data, you understand.
You are a teacher, socio. You cannot
this
have
is
a
just
right
but
to your
general
own statistics.
Qualitative information of what is happening. But then, in quantitative terms, there's a lot of activities. There is enhanced productivity, and farmers are benefiting more. Look at the sugar, we are doing well. Look at coffee, even the pricing has gone up.
The
from
data does not
50 shillings. No, now I'm talking about quantitative data.
As we speak, Chemelil sugar is close for a year for maintenance. Who is producing this sugar?
So we can argue here, but we always agree in any undertaking. There are always setbacks and challenges. And those setbacks and challenges does not mean that activity or that enterprise is not ongoing. It is not gaining the forward traction. We are on serious forward traction, serious forward trajectory, but then the challenges will still be handled. It doesn't mean you close shop. We are not going to close shop as a country from promoting agriculture and agro-based activities.
We're just trying to
because now where the Kenya government,
where
the Kenya government has reached within the agricultural sector is now to strengthen the goods aggregation, value addition, and marketing.
I can see our time is almost up.
And all these,
I want us to talk about something else at the end of the show.
is work in progress, which must be undertaken. And
according to the Economic Survey 2025, the economy is slowing down. Kenya Kwanza's pet projects post slow growth in ailing economy, and this is across key sectors: agriculture, housing, electricity supply, financial services, transport and storage, accommodation and food services. This is data by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics about 2024 in comparison to 2023. Both years, President William Ruto was president. I want us to move on to a different discussion now.
Yes.
And this is on the reconstitution of the IEBC. Of course, the Economic Survey of 2025, that discussion will continue. On the front page of Taifa Leo anasema IEBC Kalonzo akodoa macho. Kiongozi wa chama cha Wiper Democratic Movement Kalonzo Musyoka anasisitiza kuwa Rais William Ruto hafai kuteua mwenyekiti wa makamishna na makamishna wa Tume Huru ya Uchaguzi na Mipaka IEBC bila kushauriana na upinzani. Anataka rais kuhakikisha mchakato wa uteuzi wa wasimamizi wapya wa Tume Huru ya Uchaguzi na Mipaka unashirikisha wadau wote na unazingatia makubaliano ya kisiasa yaliyoafikiwa kupitia kamati ya mdahalo wa kitaifa NADCO. Now, it would appear we've boxed ourselves into a new problem.
Yeah.
That the NADCO negotiations ended up with the inclusion of more political perspectives or influences into the selection of the IEBC process. Then after that, things changed with the broad-based arrangement because Azimio initially was on the other side of government. Now, within the next 2 weeks, we anticipate that we should be having the IEBC in place. We're already constrained on time, but questions are being asked on if at all the process was correct. Do you think we have time for this kind of conversation right now?
First of all, we have time because we should not be boxing ourselves and get it wrong. Getting this thing wrong is more dangerous than even to delay it. Why should we hurry with the wrong process? Because you can hurry and the thing is wrong. I'm in court, Fred, let me disclose. I went to court to challenge the shortlisting of some people in the chairperson and IEBC commission. For example, do you know why I've seen people congratulating the selection panel for having done it ahead of time, isn't it? Do you know why they could not do it later? Because the issues are so high and they are trying to run to clear the process because they fear the legal battle. Because Charles Nyachaya was shortlisted, he doesn't qualify to be shortlisted because he's on CRB, that's one thing. Secondly, Charles Nyachaya is working for government and didn't resign before. Joy Modibo is a member of UDA, actually the chairperson of the Election and Dispute Resolution Committee. So the selection panel was already compromised. And Fred, I say here on this studio, that our process begins by selecting the selection panel. The selection panel, there are people who are there because they had to bribe their way to be there. So Fred, for example, you wanted to be in this selection panel and you spent 20 million or 30 million to be in the selection panel, isn't it? What's your business model? Your business model is that because after this selection panel goes home, isn't it? You have to make your money now. So the people who want to be commissioners have to pay you your money so that they take over the commission, isn't it? And then now the people who take over the commission, what's their business model? For you to become an MP, to become a senator, to become the president, to become what? You have to bribe them because they also bribe somebody to get that position. Now the people who are elected so also have to be bribed to vote in parliament, to vote in the county assembly. The process of not delivering to Kenya begins right there. And I told Kenyans that you can be waiting for 2027, the elections are rigged now. Can you imagine the same day yesterday, the selection panel finished their report in Mombasa, isn't it? Few hours later, they were in Narok to deliver the report. What's the hurry?
Okay.
So you see, you could see that there's something being done. I went to court in Naivasha. The judge in Naivasha saw this matter as urgent, called even the chairperson of the IEBC in court the same day. Then they said their email was not working. Then the next day we went to court again, they appeared, then the judge said because one of her colleagues called Justice Lorot was also applying for chairperson, she cannot suspend the selection process and transferred the case to Nairobi, Milimani locals. Then Justice Chacha Mwita decided and said, there is nothing urgent, we can listen to this case on 28th of July. Now, I mean, it does not, how do you say it's not urgent and we have substantive issues? And how can the court in Naivasha see it urgent and the court in Nairobi see it's not urgent until 28th of July when these people would have been in office working?
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say here is this election thing has a lot of interest that even whatever Kalonzo discard does not make. Then again, I want to falsify Kalonzo. How legitimate was NADCO? How constitutional was NADCO? And then when I look at the NADCO report that led to the IEBC law, they said that there'll be two positions to the minority, another one to majority, another one to LSK, another one to civil society, some bodies. Then in the end, it was about the minority and majority. Now minority and majority are in the same thing, isn't it? So it means
So he does have a case. He does have an argument.
no,
here.
Kalonzo's argument is correct because Kalonzo is concerned. He's a stakeholder in the next election, first of all. I think he has presidential ambitions, just like most of us, isn't it? And then he finds that the selection panel, he complained about it. Now he's complaining about the nomination of the list going, that there should be two people looking at it. Now, if the president is going to be a contestant in that contest for presidency, if he will contest, I hope he doesn't. But if he contests for the presidency, he's the one appointing IEBC. Yet the sovereign power belongs to the people.
But the Constitution allows him to do it. It is his role to make the final appointment. To send the names to Parliament, it is the president's role.
Yes, but I'm saying these are the changes we need to correct that problem. So I'm telling Kalonzo, the NADCO cannot cure the problem he's looking for. What can cure the problem is that the IEBC selection panel should be done differently. And
we already passed that because, as you said correctly, the IEBC selection panel is already done.
So Fred, as new generation aspirants, because also we have ambitions to lead this country using alternative leadership, for us we rejected these things on 25th of April at Ufungamano House, saying that the process has been biased, and that's why the president is chest thumping, saying aizienda na tutadu. So tutadu.
What's your take on this IEBC process?
Tutadu, for us, if we do not get this thing corrected, from Bomas to State House, hata hakuna kwenda Supreme Court, hatutaenda, so that someone can announce for us forever, go to Supreme Court because you have formulated the laws, picked your commissions.
Time, Professor. Bwana Sosion, what's your take on this? Because there are so many issues.
I hope, Professor.
There's so many issues that have the potential of delaying this process even further. Do we have time for this kind of talk at this point?
I think we must be fair to the country and our democracy. Those who are still slaves of mistrust, I don't think the country can entertain them any further to the detriment of creating a constitutional crisis in the absence of a fully functional IEBC complete with chair and commissioners. There are a lot of pending issues at IEBC, audit of 2022 elections, by-elections for very many vacant positions that exist within the country, registration of new voters, delimitation of boundaries, preparations for 2027 elections. And the process of identifying the commissioners is properly laid out in the Constitution, and the entities that play their roles is clear. We cannot keep on disputing and fishing for unnecessary disputes. If some of us, those who are interested in vying for presidential contest in 2027 like Fred Ogola, you don't begin by lamenting on how the process will be fair. Market yourself, do yourself, the vote. There is nothing IEBC officials and commissioners are going to alter in what Kenyans decide.
What about
the ballot?
Demand by the Kalonzo Musyoka that he or the opposition should be included in the final decision of who becomes IEBC chairperson?
Is that constitutional? Is that within the law?
That's what I'm asking.
It is not within the law. The law is clear. Kibaki appointed Isaac Hassan in 2017. Uhuru appointed Chebukati. That is the mandate given to the president, and the president does not go fishing for names across the country. The panel advertises, and those Kenyans who meet qualifications place in the application. They are interviewed and names sent to the president, and the president will pick a name from either 2 send or 3. I don't have the clarity in terms of the number. And so the work of the president is simply to facilitate, but not to fish for actually a chair, because the names that are shortlisted, interviewed, are placed before the president. So I think the president made an announcement, I think that was yesterday or the other day, that he has already received the report from the panel. And that report, by law, he must be able to submit those names within a constitutional and legal timeline of 7 days to Parliament. So we expect those names to be in Parliament within the next 7 days. And that is the only thing the president will do. It is a mandate given to him in the Constitution. Then Parliament will further vet those nominees and place a motion before the House to debate the report that will be tabled in the House. And Parliament will vote to approve. So it is not just the president. The way the Constitution is coached is to give a wide latitude to Kenyans in identifying these names. I don't know what Professor and others would want us to do beyond what is provided for. If you are vying for president in 2027, go to the people and package your politics and leave IEBC to do its work. And IEBC will do its work independent. And we have come of age as a country. Even if your brother is appointed the chair of IEBC, that brother of yours is not going to alter the numbers at the polling station.
Because of time, 45 seconds for a parting shot.
The elections will end at the polling station, and we must learn as a country to accept results of our sovereign democratic process where the people of Kenya exercise their sovereign will, and those who lose, I think we've had enough time of disturbing the Supreme Court judges and the judges. Concede defeat and congratulate those who get elected. I think that is a new chapter that we need to open in the country. And lastly, the country is on course. The salvation of this country and the journey to the economic promised land is on course, and the president is firmly in charge, and the president should not listen to distractors, and he should continue with this agenda of total inclusivity of the entire country and of all people of the country, regardless of political beliefs, interests, ethnicity, religious inclination, and continue emphasizing and pushing the success of the pillars that were voted by Kenyans. This is the first time that a president is elected on a basis of a clear manifesto. And the president will be re-elected in 2027 on the basis of clear indicators of the achievements in their manifesto.
Mine will be brief. Kenyans, I feel you. I feel what you have in your pockets. I feel when you go to healthcare and it doesn't work. I feel when education system doesn't work for you. I believe that we should stop being driven to a political process by some people meeting here, some people meeting there, then IB is being set. Because I'm seeing people telling Kenyans, wait until 2027, we shall fix your problem. Let us demand for the things that can be fixed now, because our problem is not political. If you are waiting with hope for 2027, people had hope in 1992, 1997, 2002, hope was there, partly delivered. 2017, you had hope. 2022, you are told ukombozi imefika, but you know what you are seeing now. So what I'm trying to tell Kenyans, don't accept to be driven by what we call nowadays current affairs. Current affairs is what we are discussing too much, which is taking away from casting the main thing. Young people, our question was economic, integrity, accountability. Those things must be done today, and that's why even now we are discussing that pending bills must be paid before this budget is read, because you can't read a budget and ignore debts that you owe people, and that will kill the economy. So for me, my problem is let's focus on the economic problem. Let us not accept a political solution to our economic problem.
Thank you so much, Professor Fred Ogola, economic and governance expert, and Wilson Sosion, former Secretary General of the National Union of Teachers, KNUT, and also served as member of the National Assembly. Our panelists this morning discussing the diverse headlines that we are seeing on our dailies today. On the Standard, lies getting bigger. On the Star, Will Matiang'i's past Heart 2027 dream. And on the Daily Nation, mystery of call to MP's guard before killing. These are just some of the headlines this morning. After the break, we'll switch gears and talk about matters gynecology. World Ovarian Cancer Day is today. We'll be having Afrin Fatima Shafi in studio. She's a gynecologic oncologist, meaning a doctor who handles issues of cancer as well as women's affairs. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. Good morning.